Hello everyone, this is episode 2 of model number 8, Voyager. Before the satin coat, after the satin coat. Before I did any decals, I wanted to make sure the satin coat would not destroy the hull, and I was correct, it did not. And you can see some images here. There's the image of the box. You're not going to need that on this video. This is a thumbnail. I have something more appropriate in mind. Probably a nice front view of the ship. Those are the decals. Here's where I started focusing on details like escape pod coloring and trench coloring. Of course, there's also side trenches on the saucer section. Transport emitters, some gold or brass on the hinges of the warp nacelles. You can see it a bit more clearly there with its separate sections. And of course, I take the pictures from all sides. There's some pearlescent blue and gold on the fantail of the saucer section. That's in the early days before I realized pearlescent was too harsh, and you needed to have iridescent instead, very lightly painted to make sure that nothing went wrong. There they are, both sides colored. You don't see many paint strokes at least, so that's something to be grateful for. The back of the ship, with the calendar in the background, that's probably the Avengers Endgame calendar. This was 2020 after all. And looking a bit more from the top of the ship, the warp nacelles up. So I didn't exactly take the images in proper order. They were just taken as I completed them day by day. So now we're up to June of 2020. So this was all during the COVID. I just kept coloring. I kept adding decals and everything, although I probably didn't add that many decals until 2021, when I finished the model. You can see the detail at the top of the bridge dome there. And the detail at the back of the ship. The back of the bridge dome. You can see the windows and the phasers there. Even the windows that are the ready room and the captain's briefing room. Well, the briefing room, yeah. And you'll see next the can with which I sprayed everything. Satin finish. So those are the first two pictures you saw in this video. The satin coat. That was taken from a long distance. That was not taken from a short distance. This was taken close up. That's why it's so clear, and that's why it might be the thumbnail. However, I think there's a better image coming up that'll make a much better thumbnail. I really do. And you can see the fantail again. So I kept taking pictures as I did more detail because you had to do those hinges in dark. I think I used gunmetal gray for them. There's a wider detail of the secondary hull with some of the decals over the warp core hatch and everything. Flipped upside down, that's probably the starboard side. That's the port side. You can see the pearlescent clearly there. There's a greater detail of the underside of the ship. And then you have... See, it doesn't sit quite level on its stand. I don't know why. But I think that's a very good thumbnail to pick there. I can crop it to fit everything. That's pretty well the best picture I can get for this stage of the build. See, you're starting the name of the ship and the registry number, at least. Not the name yet. The decals from Federation models, those are the ones I used because they had way more detail than that which came with the kit, which was by then 25 years old. So the side trenches should be colored by now. You can see that the hatch decal is in place with the name and registry on either side. The shuttle bay windows, of course, had to be printed. I tried to get the ship level. And there's the pinstripe on the port side of the secondary hull. There's a good side view of the ship. Now it looks a normal gray in that light. That's at the Hobby Club meeting. I recognize the window. No, wait, that's at Mom and Dad's house. I recognize the kitchen and a spice rack. Top of the bridge again. There's no registry number yet that I can see. Just a bit of gunmetal gray and everything. And here's a close-up view of just the saucer section. Now, I didn't paint those window bays white. They just show up white in the light. And this is how I kind of mark up the guide as to what I put on. Let's see what the next picture shows. All right, that's a bit of an angle. And then you have the front of the bridge dome again. Now, those escape pods look dull, as if there's no gray on them. That's because those are the escape pod decals themselves. So the underlying paint did not bleed through. That's good. And you can see the multicolor in the sensor dome. There's the registry number on the front of the ship. This is 2021. And the transport emitters. And you see there was a bit of black paint that dribbled along, so I had to use damage decals to cover it up. Kind of looks like phaser stitching. Could have been damaged by the Kazon. But 25 years after Voyager's launch was 2395. In the timeline of Admiral Janeway, Voyager was still in the Delta Quadrant. Maybe it was damaged with the Battle of the Fendomar, as she mentioned. That's the same place where her cup, her favorite cup, got dented. There's a good angle of the ship. There it is from the front. Now this is on the shelving unit at Chalk River. You can see a bit of the Enterprise E beside it. Then I zoomed in on the ship itself. Now there's no label on the stand yet. You can see that. The stand is completely clear so far. There is the back side of the ship. Yeah, I'm thinking I might just do a long shot of the ship with all the decals in place, and that would probably be the best thumbnail. Like that. That's going to be the thumbnail. It's perfect. It's already cropped to fit. Shows the whole ship with nothing else in the background. So that'll be perfect. And there it is from the very front. All right, here we keep going. Side view. Now we've jumped to the end, of course. But the rest of them just showed the side of the ship and everything. So that's pretty well the end for now. And we'll see you here next time. Bye-bye.